You are listening to WVEB Truthsharks Radio. You are listening to WVEB Truthsharks Radio.
Well, hello, everyone out there in these podcasting streets, and welcome to Black by Color Only, a division of the Truthsharks Radio Network. I hope today finds you doing well. I am your host and friend, the Sand Tiger, DJ Southeast Vince, coming at you from a place called Durham, North Carolina. This show will discuss topics that affect the so-called Black nation, whatever that is. And if you happen to be a fruit bat, beware, because this shark is in the water. How you folks doing today? Told you all I would have a different time slot. Let me get I got a couple of things here. Got to get together. Something. Okay. Told you all I would have a different time slot because I had to take my wife to work and everything, and some days I might be doing a show at 7:30, 5 o'clock, whatever, because she's working at a part-time job and her hours vary, so that's why I'm here at a different time. But I am here right now, and if you would like to be a guest to come on the show, whether in the chat room or if you would like to call in or whatever, um, the only stipulation I have, or the only requirement I have of you, is to be respectful on this program. Okay, no profanity, no excessive profanity, no ad hominem attacks, no character assassinations, gaslighting, trolling. One of the things that really, you really want to get on my bad side, come on here and just leave me on, and then you start talking all this lewd stuff on here and everything, trying to disrupt the show. You will have a very short time on this program. Okay, I don't care if you agree with me or disagree with me, but if you're going to interact on this program, you're going to do it with some respect. Okay. Now, don't be a fruit bat. Okay. Because, I got the gun out and it's time to do some fruit bat hunting. And if you want to be one of those that are having to shoot off of this show, well, then, just be a fruit bat and you'll see what happens to you. But anyway, hope everybody's doing well on this Saturday before Thanksgiving. And I know the question a lot of people have every year this time of year, after Halloween and before Christmas, we have Thanksgiving. And a lot of people are like, well, why do they skip over Thanksgiving? It's like as soon as Halloween is over, they get out the Christmas stuff and everything. They don't say nothing about Thanksgiving or anything. Well, I believe there's a reason for that because, Thanksgiving has been, dragged through the mud over the years. People like, well, the Pilgrims came here and they stole the land from the Indians, and they try to establish white supremacy in the United States. And I've heard people say they don't celebrate Thanksgiving for that reason. And my thing is, I celebrate Thanksgiving because I'm just thankful to God for another year. I don't care what happened with the Pilgrims or the Indians or anything like that. And of course, uh, when we think along that line, we need to learn a little bit of history, because let me tell you all something: the Indians were not all these peaceful, well-to-do people who were nonviolent or anything like that. They did the same thing to each other. So that's one of the main reasons why people have this thing against Thanksgiving. I believe they just say, okay, let's just blow past Thanksgiving and let's just jump on Christmas and get ready for the end of the year and everything. So, but Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays. I love it. Of course, I love the time off, but getting with friends and having some good food and fellowship and everything. And I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful for this country that we live in. I'm thankful that I live in a country called the United States of America because a lot of people aren't privileged to live in this country. And a lot of people don't understand, the privilege that they have living here. You got people who are born and raised here, got all the benefits and the accommodations and everything that comes from living here, and they don't understand the way people are living in other countries. It really gets my goat a little bit when people talk about how bad the United States is, and like I mentioned before, they think this is a place of white supremacy and all that crazy mess. And I would like to tell any one of them, uh, why don't you visit another country? Why don't you find a country that's not as racist and misogynistic and uh, uh, Islamophobic and everything? Why don't you find you a country like that, and why don't you go live there? I mean, why don't you just go ahead and find a country where you can go live away from these racist people, these Islamophobic people, these transphobic people, get away from them and go to a country where you think you would be better off. Now, I've never been to another country. My wife, she's been all over the world basically. She's lived in Europe, she's lived in Asia, she's lived in Africa, and now she lives in North America, which includes these here United States of America. And she can tell you that we here in the United States don't know how good we have it. We really don't realize how good we have it. Now I understand it, because I know, I know a little bit about what's going on in the world, and I'm like, what I hear about in other countries, I'm like, I am glad I live in the United States of America. Matter of fact, I thank God that I live in the United States of America, even though you have the powers that be in this country who want to wear down the freedoms that we have, the freedoms that we enjoy in this country. They want to come in here and they want to they want to shut down certain people whose speech they don't like. And they say, they're always crying about freedom of speech, but when someone says something they don't like, all of a sudden, let's cut out their freedom of speech. But one thing you got to understand about freedom of speech, you really can't have freedom of speech if you don't have the speech that you don't agree with. Other word, and otherwise, it's not freedom of speech. You can't say this about one group, but you can say it about another group, and all it is about favoritism, and it just shows how hypocritical a lot of people are. They say, well, you can't talk about this person, but then you turn around and talk about somebody you don't like in the same way that the other person was, and you sitting here thinking you're all virtuous and everything, but you're not. Your virtue is not showing because you're denying someone a right that you want to have. You're denying someone that right, but then you think someone should allow you whenever you feel like you want to make your peace or say whatever you want to, that it's okay for you to say whatever you want to, simply because this other person, we don't like him, so we're not going to let him speak. Nah, you let everybody speak. And I believe I'm not the type of person who goes around and says, okay, I don't like the way they're talking, they need to be shut down. Nah, I'm not that type of person. You have the right to say whatever you want to, whoever it offends, because let me tell you all something. We live in an offensive world. And you know why? You know why we live in an offensive world? Because we live in a world that hates the truth. And the truth offends a lot of people. So you're going to get offended. You're going to get offended. And it's like, boo hoo, oh me, oh woe is me, and everything. But hey, you know what? You're going to get offended. And no matter how much you try to cut down someone's freedom of speech or anything, someone is going to say something that's going to tick you off. The only thing about that is, how do you handle it? Some of us can handle offense better than others. That's fine and whatever. But how do you handle it? Are you going to say, well, that hurt me, so I don't want to hear that again? Or are you going to say, yeah, it hurt me, but you know what? There's nothing I can do about it. And there really isn't anything you can do about someone offending you. But you got the powers that be that want to shut down a lot of the freedoms that we enjoy in this country. Last week I was talking about the healthcare and everything. Um, they want to they want to take away your freedoms to make quality choices for yourself and your family, but they don't care about that. The powers that be, they think that because they are in that position that they should do the thinking for everybody, and they think they know what's best for all of us, and these people don't know how to think their way out of a paper bag. And too many of us are all too willing to say, okay, let's give our power to the government. The government's going to make everything better. If somebody says something that I don't like, the government's going to take care of it. If I go hungry and I can sit around and be lazy, the government's going to take care of it. That's the attitude a lot of people have. And a lot of people don't go out and do their due diligence to do research or to investigate or anything like that, do their own homework, do their own detective work to figure out how things are run. They just think the government's going to take care of it. And they think because the government's going to take care of it, all they had to do is sit down and just breathe the air. But that's not how it should be. You should be the government should only protect us from foreign and domestic terrorists, or foreign and domestic threats to this country, and to get out of the way and let us do our thing. They shouldn't be raising taxes for their own pet projects. I talked about the subsidies last week, and people don't understand that when you talk about subsidizing, people want to favor the government subsidizing certain programs. You don't understand that when you are favoring subsidies, you're basically favoring the government coming in and taking more of your hard-earned dollars in taxes. People think the government just can wave a wand and just get money in their hand and be like, "Ooh, look at this. Now we can fund our projects." Nah, they're getting that from you. And I don't understand why people don't see that. That's your hard-earned money. Some years ago, I heard some celebrities talking about, I don't think the government's taking enough money out of my paycheck. What are you talking about? That's your hard-earned money. The government didn't work for it. That's your money. And I know that there has to be some taxation to pay for goods and services, in the government. But when they come in and they start saying, okay, we want to institute this program, we want to get more people, we want to make sure nobody is starving, and make sure no one is homeless, or funny how that works. We want to make sure this program goes, so we're going to raise your taxes. And what people don't understand is when they raise taxes, listen to me and listen to me well. When they raise your taxes, that's more of your hard earned money going to the government to help somebody that you don't even know. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about the SNAP program and how people are abusing that, and they're just using SNAP to buy a lot of junk. That's all they're doing. My hard-earned money shouldn't be going to if my hard-earned money is going to somebody to keep them from starving, guess what? They shouldn't be buying junk with that. Where are the vegetables and the fruit and the real good food, the real food? People buying Swiss rolls and oatmeal cakes and chocolate covered donuts and fruit roll-ups and barbecue potato chips and Coca-Colas and everything like that. That's not feeding your family. And then when you point this out, people say, well, they should have They should be able to treat their children and everything. Treat their children. You're not treating them. You're feeding them this junk. A treat is something you get every now and then, not something you should be getting on a daily basis. But you got people who don't think for themselves. They let the government do all the thinking. So that's how they go off into thinking like that. But at the sound of my voice, if you're listening to me at the sound of my voice, we are living in the best country in the world today. And I don't just say that because I'm an American or anything like that. We do. But you got people trying to wear down our freedoms. And one of the ways they're wearing down our freedoms, excuse me, one of the ways they're wearing down on our freedoms is in the so-called justice system that we have in the United States of America. Now, what is justice supposed to be? Justice means basically doing what's right, passing a fair law. In other words, justice means holding criminals accountable and protecting victims. That's basically what justice is. Holding criminals accountable and protecting the victims. But it's sad to say, in our so-called justice system, which I call an injustice system, the powers that be seem to want to protect the criminals more than the victims. The victims have less rights than the criminals do. We've seen this with George Floyd, and we see this all the time with these criminals that go out here and they commit crimes and they get arrested 20 billion times and everything, and they keep getting released into the streets because his rights were violated. Well, whose rights are you? First of all, I'm going to say it like this. And you can say about me whatever you want to or whatever. If you commit an act, a crime against somebody that causes that person harm or whatever, you have violated your own rights, which means you don't get the same rights as the victims do. You'll get someone who's been accused of a murder or something. They get there, they go to trial, they get convicted and everything, but then someone comes up and says, "Oh, wait a minute. We did this wrong, and when we did this wrong, we violated this person's rights, so we're going to have to drop the case." That's stupid. That is pure stupidity. You got the evidence on the guy, but because somebody didn't do it the right way or present it the right way, this person gets to go free. And 9 times out of 10, these people go out and they commit more crimes. Let me go to this article. And this is from October 24th, 2025 of this year. This is the Western Journal. It says, man charged with motel murder after being arrested and released over 40 times. The suspect in a Charlotte, North Carolina murder, who was arrested earlier this month, had been arrested at least 40 times before his most recent arrest. That right there is a crime in itself. Ronnie Fewell was arrested 41 previous times, Republican Representative Mark Harris of North Carolina posted on X. 41 previous times. Another serial criminal who is walking free in Charlotte, North Carolina, has just been arrested for the murder of a 51-year-old man. I am disgusted by this, he wrote. Harris was referring to the August slaying of Irina Zarutska. And I talked about this a few weeks ago. Irina Zarutska, she was I forget the name of the country, but she was a fugitive from this country. And she got on a train. She sat in front of this guy, didn't say anything to him or anything. He just gets up and stabs her in the neck, and she bleeds out with people sitting there, just watching the thing, and he gets up there and he says, "Oh, I got that white girl. I got that white girl," which, everybody wants to throw the term hate crime around. Well, that was a hate crime. But anyway, Harris was referring to the August slaying of Irina Zarutska on a commuter train in Charlotte. The Carlos Brown Jr., the suspect in that case, had more than 14 arrests dating back to 2014. Fuel 32 was arrested on Tuesday, 11 days after the police found Ronald Neville shot to death in a Charlotte motel room, according to WBTV. The deadly shooting occurred around 5:30 p.m. on October the 10th at the Motel 6 on Wallingford Street near Woodlawn Road in South Charlotte. What in the world is going on in Charlotte? Neville was shot multiple times. Excuse me. Surveillance video showed several suspects approaching the room before forcing their way inside. Video showed the same men leaving the room shortly after they arrived, carrying a backpack that they did not have prior to entering the room. Fuel was identified as a suspect due to his past interactions with police. He was charged with felony murder, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and felony conspiracy in relation to the shooting. No other arrests have been announced. Fuel will remain in jail because he was not allowed bond, according to Fox News. Well, he should never have been allowed bond. He has at least 40 arrests since 2012. Past arrests have included charges of resisting a public officer, breaking and entering, possession of stolen goods, assault on a female, possession of cocaine, selling cocaine, possession of a firearm by a felon, possession of a stolen firearm, robbery, assault on a female, and assault with a deadly weapon. Fox said although many charges were dismissed, others resulted in Fuel spending time in prison. Harris has proposed overhauling the laws to avoid several criminals being allowed to prey on communities. America is facing a crime epidemic. Too often, Democrat run cities put criminals first and victims last. Irina Zarutska, who was murdered just miles outside my district, is just one of the many victims that pro crime Democrats have failed, he said in a release on his website. That's why I'm fighting to ensure that federal taxpayers are not forced to bankroll dangerous pro-crime policies in Democrat-run cities. States and local communities that refuse to invest in law enforcement or implement policies that deter crime should not expect Washington to foot the bill, he said, referring to a bill he is supporting to deny federal aid to soft-on-crime cities. And I say a hearty amen to that. I mean, listen to this guy's rap sheet. Resisting a public officer, breaking and entering, possession of stolen. This guy, he should have been in jail for at least 10 years. At least. And earlier today, I was listening to a program on YouTube, and the guy, the host of the channel, he was saying if a person continues to commit crimes, no matter what you do, you keep releasing them out of prison and everything. He said you should probably just give them the death penalty. Just give them the death penalty, because they have shown they don't want to be a part of society. They don't want to interact with society. They always want to be a bane to society. So you just might as well, like if someone keeps shoplifting or whatever, and you put them in jail, you release them, they go back shoplift again, and they keep doing it and everything. He said, you know what? They probably deserve the death penalty. And you know what? I thought about it. I said, you know what? He might have a point there. He might have a point. We keep releasing these people from prison and they keep on stacking their victims list. But we always want to cry about justice. Justice, justice. Oh, that white cop shot this black kid. Well, what did the black kid do? We never stop and think about that. We never stop and think about that. I'm going to pull up this other story. I need to find a way to make this more quiet and everything, when I do my typing and whatever. So let me do this. Alrighty. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. I forget where this story was. Let me see if I can find it. I forget. I don't know why it's not pulling up in my search. Um, I don't know why it's not pulling up in my search. But there's a case of a man. I forget where it was, where it occurred, but he had been the victim of a crime. Someone had always broken into his garage and they were stealing his stuff and everything. And so this one day, someone was stealing stuff in his garage. He heard him in the garage and he fired a bullet through the garage door. And he just kept firing. And the kids were the kids were running on. One of them got hit and got killed. And he ran back into his house and he reloaded and he started shooting again, which I think was not smart. you know. But the boy that got killed, his parents got mad and they probably went off into the thing. Oh, he was a good kid. He was making A's and B's, and he was skipping to grandmama's house with muffins in the basket, and everything. And he just loved life, and probably some of that same mess and everything. But he gets killed. The parents get mad, especially the mama. It's always the mama that gets mad. Oh, my baby, my baby. But they never say my baby when they're raising them. But they always want to, get out there and, oh, he didn't have to shoot him. He didn't have to shoot him. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't. And these may have been the same rascals breaking into his garage. But you're missing the point. You're missing the point of the whole situation when you say, "Oh, he didn't have to shoot him." First of all, why was your son breaking into someone's garage in the first place? You ever think about that? What was he doing there? Why was he there? Why wasn't he at home? Why didn't you hold him accountable? Son, where are you going? Where are you going to be at? Where You going out with your friends? Well, where are you all going to? Where you headed off to? Nah, the parents, they don't feel like they need to hold their children accountable. They just let them go out there and do whatever and everything. They don't know what's going on. And then when they meet a negative consequence, because trouble is born in the heart of a child. But when they meet a negative consequence, all of a sudden it's everybody else's fault but my own, because I didn't hold my child accountable. Now, to be honest with you, the homeowner wasn't smart by going back into the house and reloading and starting to shoot and keeping on shooting and everything. And some people will say, well, he was in fear for his life. They were running away, but he was. If I threaten you to the point where you're running away from me, I'm not going to shoot you. Depends on how you're running away. If you're running away to go into your car and get a gun or something like that, and I know that, yeah, I'm going to keep shooting. But if you're just running away because you heard them gunshots, you were like, okay, this rascal ain't playing. Okay, let me kick rocks real quick before I start before he sprinkles me with pepper. But my thing is this: everyone is focused on the homeowner, but nobody is focusing on why those boys were out there in the first place. Back in 1993, we had a very similar incident that happened right here in Durham, North Carolina. Back in 1993, I think it was March of 1993. I think it was three kids. They broke into a subdivision out here called Woodcroft. And Woodcroft is the well-to-do area. This is where, nice homes and everything. Oh my goodness, nice homes, nice apartments. And you really don't hear about a lot going on there. But these three thugs thought they were going to break into someone's house. And so they broke into the man's garage. And they thought the man wasn't home, but the man was home because his child was sick. And this man hears someone breaking into his garage. He loads a gun. He goes into the garage and he sees these rascals breaking into his garage. Now, when they saw him, they panicked and they took off running. Now, he starts shooting them. He hits one of them. Well, he hit two of them, but one of them got killed and another got injured. Now, the pastor of the church I used to go to, a few days after that, he was doing a class that Sunday morning, and he said that was cold-blooded murder. Those kids were running down the street, and he started shooting. They were way down the street. I don't believe they were way down the street. They may have been way down the street when one of them dropped dead, but I don't think he shot them while they were way down the street. And I don't even know what the pastor meant by saying they were way down the street. What do you mean way down the street? Have you even seen the crime scene or anything like that? But he got up there, he was like, oh, it was cold-blooded murder. It was cold-blooded murder. And everyone's crying out, oh, this is such a tragedy. This is such a tragedy. But I just happen to know that kid that got killed. And this kid was not an innocent kid. You see how a lot of these kids act today? The way the disrespect they show to their teachers and everything. This is how this kid was acting 30 years ago. See, back 30 years ago, you didn't see the disrespect as much as you see it today. So this kid was kind of pretty much a precursor to what we see today. His name was Jamal Elliott. I knew his father because I had taken an interest in photography, and his father was one of the photographers in Durham. and he was going to teach me photography. But before that could happen, his father had suffered a stroke. And so his son went to live with his uncle who lives in a very good part of town, who lived in a very good part of town. I don't know if the uncle is still alive or anything, but he lived in a good part of town. One of these really rich areas where all the black folks lived. But Jamal Elliott, he wanted to do his own thing. This boy was 15 years old. And everyone talking about, oh, he was cut down in the prime of his life and he was so young, that man didn't have to shoot him, yada, yada, yada. But the thing, the question that I'm expecting that nobody is asking is, why was Jamal Elliott even at that house in the first place? And of course, because the homeowner was white and these thugs were black. Of course, there was some racial tension about it, and I'm surprised that this didn't even make it national news even back then, because it was a white homeowner and he shot up three black kids and killed one of them. But nobody asked the question, why was Jamal Elliott and his little thuggy friends out there? Not only that, they were supposed to be in school. Nobody asked those questions. Why was he out there? Everybody wanted to concentrate on the homeowner, almost as if, the homeowner was sitting on his porch and he just happened to see three black kids walking down the street, say, hey, you niggers, come here, let me shoot you. These thugs were breaking into his garage, but nobody wanted to see it that way. And I remember going to the funeral home that Jamal Elliott was in. Matter of fact, the funeral home was right next door to where I lived at the time. And I went in there and I saw, people, they were crying, about Jamal, but nobody was asking, what in the world was Jamal Elliott doing there anyway? Why wasn't he in school? And Jamal Elliott, he used to go to another school, it was a Christian school. And I remember the first time I met Jamal Elliott, and oh boy, oh my goodness, this boy was big time disrespectful. I saw him fighting with teachers. I mean, he just had a bad attitude. And someone had even taken him to therapy, and his therapist told him, said, Jamal, if you don't change your life around, you're going to end up getting shot. And that's exactly what happened to him. Some people, people in the church, they'll be like, oh, they spoke death on that boy. They said he was going to get shot, and look at what happened. No, they ain't speak death on him. They told him what was going to be the obvious result. If you keep it up, you are going to end up getting shot. And that's exactly what happened. And to this day, there are people that believe that justice was not served because the man, his name was Michael Seagroves, because a man didn't go to prison for killing Jamal Elliott because it was cold-blooded murder. That's what they said. It wasn't cold-blooded murder. If Michael Seagroves shot at those boys while they were running down the street, yeah, I would say that wasn't a smart thing to do. But you don't know what a person is thinking when something like that is going on. Things are going at light speed. He has a sick child at home. Someone's breaking into his garage. You don't know his mode of thinking. And that's the same thing with this instance about this man who shot these here recently. I think it was in Michigan, if I'm correct. He shot these boys and killed one of them, and now everybody wants to get up there and cry foul because he didn't have to shoot them. There was another case, and I forget where this was too. This man heard someone breaking into his house. Three little thugs again. They always travel in packs of three. I don't know why. Three little thugs. They discovered he was home. They fired at him first. And he fired back. And this man must have been a sharpshooter because he killed all three of them. Now, if it were me and I was with three other guys and I saw one of them get put down by a bullet, I would have either given up or I would have scattered somewhere. But this man shot and killed all three of them. Here come the families again. You didn't have to shoot them. What are you talking about? They shot at him first. What was he supposed to do? Sit there and just let them shoot him and just go through his house and steal everything? And see, that's the thing a lot of these parents don't think about. They think their kids are little angels and everything. Oh, you didn't have to shoot them. What do you mean you didn't have to shoot him? They shot at him first. And these are the same people always talking about justice. We need justice. And so the original story I was talking about, this man, he found somebody was breaking into his garage and he shot through the garage door. That's what people are saying now. Justice wasn't served because he murdered that boy. He didn't have to shoot at them like that. But nobody asked why were the boys there in the first place. They didn't have to break into his garage like that either. And despite what you all might think about, how things going, whether the man was guilty of continuing to shoot and everything and stuff like that, well, no matter what you think about all that, I would have let this guy off because I really don't think this man would be a threat to his neighborhood. Matter of fact, some of them thugs, they might think twice before coming back to that neighborhood again, especially that house. Because they'll be like, hey, Johnny, he got shot and killed over there. Nah, I ain't going over there. So he may have helped to reduce crime in that neighborhood. And of course, you got the people who go out there and talk about, this is why we need to reduce guns and everything because tragedies like this. This wasn't a tragedy. No, in a way, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy of parents not holding their kids accountable for their actions. That's the tragedy. Not because this thug got killed. He and I hate to say this, but he got what he deserved. He got what he deserved. And I'm not saying that he should have been killed or anything like that, but if you go out here and you do something, you commit a crime or whatever, and you meet a negative result because of that crime, you got what you deserved. So in my case, not my case, but in my opinion, justice had been served. Your kid that you didn't hold accountable gets with a couple of his buddies and they go out here and they commit a crime and the neighbor, the person's house they wanted to break into, starts sprinkling them with pepper. And now all of a sudden, you want to put the onus of guilt on the homeowner instead of holding these kids responsible for their actions. And I'm going to give you a reason why I think that people think this way? It's because these kids were black. And certain powers that be don't want to be seen as being racist. So they were willing to put the onus of guilt on the homeowner and not on these kids. People, that is a sad state of affairs. You want to go around here, first of all, you irresponsibly get pregnant, have these kids out of wedlock, no fathers in the house. Then you don't hold them accountable for their actions. They can come up and cuss you out and yell in your face and everything and do whatever they think they're big enough to do. And you just let them go on through life. They go to school, they cut up in school, they bully the other students at school, they don't do their homework, they don't pass their tests, but you don't hold them accountable. Then they go out here, they do something stupid, and they meet a negative consequence for their actions, and you want to sit here and cry foul. You want to cry foul? Go into your bathroom and turn on the light. Look in that mirror. And that image that is staring back at you, that's who you need to cry foul to. You don't absolve yourself of any responsibility for your kids. And then when something bad happens to them, you want to cry and get your payday. That's what's wrong with these kids today. Show no respect to adults, despise authority. They get up here talking about, I hate the police. I hate the police. Well, guess what? The police hate some of y'all too. I guarantee you. I guarantee you the police hate, when they hear of a disturbance or something, a riot going on, and they're called to that scene and they see who's responsible for the riot, they're like, oh gosh, we got to go through this again. Those people again. And instead of those of us in the black community taking responsibility, straightening these kids out and everything, being a mentor or whatever, we just let them do whatever. And then if something happens to them, then we want to cry to Big Daddy government. And Big Daddy government, give me money because they killed my kid. My kid was a good kid. I think they should pass a law. I think they should pass a law. Whenever one of these thugs get killed and whatever, release his school transcripts. Interview the teachers that interacted with this kid. See how good of a kid these people really were. I wish, that they would release Michael Brown. Michael Brown that got killed in 2014 by Darren Wilson. Not murdered, killed because he attacked Darren Wilson. He was not murdered. I wish they would release his transcripts and interview some of the teachers that he interacted with, because I guarantee you it wouldn't be a pretty picture. I guarantee you. I wish they would pass a law just to, when these kids get killed, just release their transcripts, interview teachers, anybody interacted with them and everything. Say, what kind of kid was he? And you don't have to show your face or tell us your name or anything. Just tell us what kind of kid he was. I guarantee you, it won't be a glowing picture. I guarantee you that. And yes, I do believe we need to hold some of these parents accountable too. At one time, I was like, well, the parents can't control the actions of the kids, but you know what? A lot of times, the type of person that a person becomes when they reach adulthood has to do with those formative years with their parents. Yeah, you got some kids, they might come from a good family. They still want to do a thug, live the thug lifestyle, but they're the exception, not the rule. And you got so many of these mothers, single mothers without men. Some of them talking about, I don't need no man. I was watching a video from 1986. From 1986. 1986 was the year I graduated from high school. And these girls, they were black girls, they were rocking that 80s hair, party in the front, ski slope in the back. They were rocking that 80s hair. And I knew this was from the 80s. I was like, oh yeah. And they say it was 1986. And there were these black girls, they had gotten pregnant as teenagers. And they asked, the interviewer asked them, how many of you all want to marry the father of your child? And I forget how many girls it was. It may have been as many as 15, but only two girls raised their hand. Only two girls raised their hand. And the girls were like, I don't want to deal with with my baby's daddy. I don't want to deal with him. I can raise this child by myself. I can. And so, I'm looking at that and I'm sitting there, that's my generation. That was my generation. We started this mess. Generation X. We started this mess. Maybe some of the baby boomers may have started it too, but I think it really went full force, started going full force in Generation X. And today we are living with that result. And it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse since then. I'm talking about 40 years ago. It's gotten worse since then. Shoot, back in that day, most of the kids would behave in a classroom, but it was just maybe two, maybe as many as five out of a class of 33 or something like that will misbehave. Now, you might have five good kids in a class of 33. It has gotten worse. And the disrespect these kids have, oh my goodness. I cringe to think what would have what kind of punishment I would have gotten if I act the way some of these kids do today. I mean, for real. No respect at all. None. I was watching a video the other day. Let's see if I got this pulled up. Yeah. And I get this from ABC7 Eyewitness News. I don't know if this is in DC. I know it has to do with a mother in Chicago. I don't know if they have an ABC7 station in Chicago, but I know when I grew up in Washington, D.C., the ABC station was Channel 7. Now, this talks about this mother in Chicago. Mother speaks out at the violent beating near Southside CPS school caught on video. So much pain. Chicago. We're all familiar with Chicago. Not going to give you you can guess at why we're so familiar with Chicago. The mother who was captured on video being attacked near a far Southside school spoke out Wednesday. This is not how she says she wants the world to see her. Korshonda Hatter has sickle cell disease, and sickle cell is crazy. But she says she's never endured such pain. And for her to say that means she has endured some pain, because I heard sickle cell is very painful. So much pain, emotional, physical. I'm not feeling good at all, Hatter said. Hatter is still receiving treatment for the serious beating she took Monday as she walked her two kids home from Bright Elementary School. I don't know. Maybe they need to change the name to Not So Bright Elementary School, but I digress. Hatter says she told the school staff for 2 years her son was being bullied. Sometimes she says older kids will follow him home for 2 years and they have not done a thing, she said. They see me coming. They will run or tell security to tell me they are not there. Let me go on. Video shared tens of thousands of times on Facebook shows the attack. It shows the 33-year-old woman being punched and eventually falling to the ground, where the assault turns even more violent. This is a 33-year-old woman, and these kids are middle school kids. She's trying to protect her son, and I think she had a daughter with her from these kids. And I saw part of the video, and you got some of the kids going, oh, yeah, go get her. I can't recall the time, and don't get me wrong, we were not little angels when I was coming up either, but I can't recall a time where I seen a bunch of kids my age get together and beat down an adult, a 33-year-old woman with her kids. ABC 7 Chicago froze the video because it's too graphic after that point. ABC 7 Chicago also blurred the faces of the people involved because they're minors and no charges have been filed. You know, that ticks me off. I think these kids, you want to act like an adult? Okay, we'll treat you like an adult. We're going to put your picture up there. We're going to talk. We're going to mention your name. You're going to get your 15 minutes of fame. I wish they would get rid of that. Just nah. And some people say, well, they're children. They're children. No. Yeah, but you got children who think they're grown enough to commit adult crimes. Nah. That's how I see it. Hatter Hatter and her 9-year-old son were taken to a hospital in serious condition after the attack. I was at work. If I had been with them, it won't have happened, Devon Lee Sr. said. Lee is the kid's father. Yeah, Lee, where were you, dude? Where were you, dude? I don't think he even lives with her. I want justice. Okay, there's that word justice. Okay. I want the school to be responsible. The parents and the kids that were doing all that mess, Lee said. And guess what? The kids that beat this woman down and her kids, guess what? They were little black thugs. Hatter's a black woman. Her kids are black. And these were little black thugs. These weren't little white thugs saying, hey, you niggers, let's get the niggers. Nah. And if you all don't like the word nigger, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know it's offensive to some people, but I'm not going to hash my words because it offends you. I'm sorry. Now, I don't go around calling people niggers or niggas or anything. You know, some people say, oh, it's a difference between nigger and nigga. Nah, it's a variation of the same word. Hatter says her whole body hurts, but she's trying to be there for her children who have endured so much trauma. They both are devastated. My son will jump out of his sleep at night calling my name, she said. We also have trauma too. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep at all. I had to force myself to sleep because every time I close my eyes, I see the video, Lee said. The city's department mayor said they are working on getting more help for the family and the other families in that community. Yeah, and here's another thing that ticks me off. You all know Chicago is ran by is headed up by Brandon Johnson. And every time an incident like this, you always get these people say, "Oh, we have made safety our priority." This is the thing that ticks me off. I get ticked off every time I hear this. Oh, safety is our well. If safety was your priority, why do these acts keep happening? And not only that, they're happening with more frequency. Why are these young kids thinking that they can disrespect adults? Safety's our priority. Yes, we're doing all we no, you're not doing anything. You're just saying that to get people off your back. Hey, you all, hey, we're doing something about it, so don't worry. Nah, we want to see results. We don't want to see you flapping your lap, your bouncing your lip. They always get safety is our priority. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. The only priority you have is a priority of getting them votes. That's your priority. It says the city's deputy mayor said they are working on getting more help for the family. No, they're not. And the other families in that community. No, they're not. And a donation box at Living Fresh Market in Forest Park was installed to help the family and others who may need clothes and toys this season. There was also a rally Tuesday of parents and residents in front of Bright School. Hatter said amid her pain, she is able to find gratitude. I thank God for those people. I never felt this much love in the world, she said. And I saw the rally they had in front of the school. You got more ghetto people getting up there, flapping off at the yap. We need to whoop these kids. We need to whoop these kids. Yeah, you probably do. But your attitude is not helping them. You getting up there just cussing out there in the open and everything. And these kids see that. And they pick up this behavior from you. I'm sitting here, and these are middle school kids. Matter of fact, the mother of one of the girls, who I think instigated the whole thing, she gets up there and she says, my girl, she got a family and we care about this and we're holding her accountable. Little girl up there kind of laughing it off. I'm captain of the cheerleading squad. I make A's and B's, and everyone like don't. And basically, the mother of the little female instigator was like, "Don't put this off on my child because she's just a child." Well, your child went out there and attacked a 33-year-old pregnant woman who has sickle cell disease. Now, if justice was served, that little girl wouldn't be captain of the cheerleading squad. Excuse me. If I was officials at school, be like, we're kicking you off. You're not being an example. You're supposed to be a leader, and you're going out here and doing this stuff. Nah, we don't want you on the cheerleading squad. Don't even ask. But of course, they'll probably let her stay on there. And I don't know how this girl was uh, captain of the cheerleading squad. I do not know. That would be justice. Kick her off the cheerleading squad. Make these kids more accountable. Take the responsibility. That's justice. But when you just letting your kids go around and they doing whatever, and then every time they commit a crime or something, and you want to sit there and take their side and everything, that's not justice because you're not holding your child accountable. Oh, justice, justice. They always throwing justice out there because some civil rights leader come out one year and he started talking about, well, we need justice. And they took that word and they wore that word down. Justice doesn't even have a true meaning today. They always want to talk about justice, but they don't want to take part in perpetuating that justice. It's only about them, justice instead of justice is just us. Nah, don't give me that. Don't give me that. Earlier this week, I forget when it was, sometime this week, they had a Chicago once again. Um, they had a riot. I don't know when this was. Um, let me see this. Let me pull this up. I think it was in the South Side, if I'm correct. It was in front of a movie theater. 300 kids out there, and it's the usual suspects. Usual suspects. Wait a minute. Let me get this. I need to get better with my presentations on this program. I'll be honest with you. But it was a riot in downtown. But it was a riot. They said it was about 300 people. Usual, and you can guess it was the usual suspects. It was the usual suspects. I'm not going to let you know who the usual suspects are, but you can kind of guess what I mean. And they were rioting in front of this theater, and then gunshots started going off. 8 teenagers were hurt, and I think two were killed. I think two were killed. Let's see if I can pull this up right quick. Oh, it was a Christmas tree lighting event. That's what it was. It was a Christmas tree lighting event. And, of course, Christmas tree lighting event in a city is usually a big deal and whatever. And so you had all these people. Once again, you probably had a bunch of teenagers out there. Their parents weren't with them. That's key. Their parents weren't with them. Just say, yeah, go down there, have a good time. And so they had this Christmas tree lighting event, and then a riot erupts. Usual suspects. And from what I heard, this is an earlier story right here, but since then, I think two people were killed. And they said the teenagers who were shot, they were all between the ages of 13 and 17 years old. Once again, where were their parents? And once again, of course, this is Chicago. Brandon Johnson, excuse me. What is he doing? What is he doing? He gets up there, gives lip service. That's all he's doing is giving lip service. Talking about, everybody's safety is my priority. But next week, it's going to be the same thing again. People getting shot and killed. Says the free event was reportedly stormed by as many as 300 young people. 300 juveniles rioting in the loop now. At least 5 victims shot, one critical with life threatening gunshot wound to the torso. Multiple police officers attacked and injured with mace and stun guns. At least one police officer hospitalized. So not only were the kids injured, but some police officers were as well. Courtney Spinelli, a reporter with WGN News, said officers saw a large group appear on the streets and then heard shots being fired near the Chicago theater. Spinelli also confirmed that the youngest victim was a 13-year-old girl who was shot in the leg and was in a fair condition. The only other female victim was a 14-year-old who was shot in the hip. All the remaining victims are boys who suffered gunshots to the leg or a graze wound, and all said to be in a good condition. But I heard since then, a couple of these kids died. I'm gonna pull up this story from Fox News. Um, okay, all right, let me do this. These ad blockers get on my nerve, I tell you. Oh, we're gonna get on that one too. We're gonna get on that one. But anyway, wait a minute. Let me do this. Okay. Well, um, Brandon Johnson gets up there. He says this is an isolated event, but it's not. It's not isolated. It's going to continue happening, and I'm going to tell you all why this keeps happening. This keeps happening, and I may have said this on this show before, but these guys when they get elected, because Brandon, I don't know why I keep calling him Brandon Williams, Brandon Johnson, he's black. He's a black Democrat. He's a black liberal Democrat. They get up here. They are more concerned about interactions between white police officers and black kids than they are about taking care of crime, period. And it's going to keep happening. And you got these people, these judges, you got these lawyers out here. You know, they always want to talk about. They want to put a racist spin on everything, and they get this attitude of, you know, I don't want to see any more of these black kids going to prison. I don't want to see another black man go to jail. So they kind of overlook it. Not unless it's a white cop that kills a black person, then that's that. Oh yeah, you're going to meet the full brunt of the law. But you know, if you're a black person and everything, we got too many black people in prison, so you know we got to be kind of light on them. We got to be lenient, you know, because of racism and white supremacy. So we can't send more of these kids or these black people to jail because you know they're gonna think we're racist. And basically, what when you do that, you really don't care. You shouldn't even be in office if that's your mentality, your mode of thinking. You shouldn't even be in office. I'm just going to tell you just like that. You should not even be in office. You need to resign. because you care more about racism than you do about the crime problem. And see, the reason why it's like that is because the people who are committing the most crimes are the people you're trying to protect from racism. So, instead of saying, you're a little criminal, I don't care what your skin color is, you're like, oh, well, we black people, we suffer through it. I don't know where you get this we thing from, because it ain't we. You're at a disadvantage. The white people, they got you at a disadvantage. No, they don't. You got yourself at a disadvantage. You won't teach your kids proper etiquette. You won't teach your kids respect. You won't teach your kids manners. You won't get on your kids when they make a bad grade or something like that. You go around with this delusion that these are good kids. No, they're not. They're little thuggy, bad, demonic little kids. Demonic little trolls. That's what they are. And until you come to that realization, you're going to keep on overlooking the obvious, and people are going to continue to be victims of your children. This is crazy. And see, during that report, they were talking about an incident. They were talking about another incident, and I get this from Fox 32 of Chicago. Get this, I get this. You know what? I think I need to start putting the links to these articles in the chat room. But anyway, uh, judge orders Chicago man accused of setting CTA rider on fire to remain in custody. Now, this is another incident in Chicago. And yeah, you all, it's the usual suspect. And starting off, it says the brief. Lawrence Reed, 50. So this guy's just a few years younger than I am. Is charged with a terrorist attack on a CTA Blue Line train after allegedly setting a woman on fire. I've been hearing a little bit more of these incidents where people just setting folks on fire, throw something on them, and then they set the match and set them on fire. Federal prosecutors will argue Friday that Reed is too dangerous to be released, citing his long criminal record. Reed will remain in federal custody pending trial. Wait till you all hear how many times Reed has been arrested over the years. A Chicago man accused of setting a woman on fire aboard a CTA train will remain detained for federal custody, will remain detained in federal custody pending trial, according to prosecutors. What we know, Lawrence Reed, 50, is charged with committing a terrorist act against a mass transportation system after a 26-year-old woman was set afire aboard a Blue Line train near the Clark Lake Station on Monday night. He appeared in federal court on Friday morning. So the young woman he attacked, 26 years old, she's young enough to be his daughter. And I'm wondering what the skin color is of the little of the victim. I'm wondering. According to investigators and court documents, he bought gasoline about 20 minutes before the attack, then boarded a train and poured it over the woman. She tried to escape, but he ignited her. The victim suffered life-threatening burns and remains hospitalized in critical condition. Oh, but Brendan Johnson, he cares about people's safety. The excuse me. Federal prosecutors said the attack was captured on CTA surveillance video showing Reed's face throughout the incident. set the woman on fire. Look at this. This is him buying gas. What they're saying in a motion filed Thursday, prosecutors asked a judge to keep Reed in custody, saying he poses a serious danger to everyone in the community. Now, this is the part that I wanted to get to. They noted Reed's 30-year criminal record. At least 72 arrests and about 15 convictions, including several for arson, criminal damage to government property, and drug trafficking. The filing also detailed how Reed had recently been released from custody despite pending aggravated battery charges. Prosecutors said he attacked someone at a Berwyn hospital in August, but a judge let him go on electronic monitoring, and then another judge lifted his electronic monitoring condition. What are they doing when they teaching criminal justice in the colleges? What are they teaching the students? For real. Prosecutors argue Reed has consistently re-offended, which shows he is undeterred and should remain detained pending trial. Yes, he should. He shouldn't have no 72 arrests. And once again, he's a usual suspect. Additionally, Reed disrupted his first court appearance earlier this week by singing, babbling, and instructing the court to not speak to him, according to prosecutors. He also refused to meet with a court-appointed attorney. When the court asked his position on detention, Reed said that he wanted to go home, according to a court document. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on got a little tickle in my throat there. Prosecutors also said Reed has repeatedly stated he intends to plead guilty. Why do they let these people back out onto the streets? I don't understand this. The backstory. Reed was arrested Tuesday morning near Washington Street wearing the same clothes from the night of the attack and showing burns on his hand, authorities said. Reed was also carrying a CTA transit card that had been used to board the Blue Line at the time of the attack, according to police. While being transported to the police detective division, Reed allegedly made repeated spontaneous statements, yelling, "Burn B" and "Burn alive B." Reed was turned over to federal authorities on Wednesday. During a press conference late Wednesday afternoon, prosecutors confirmed that Reed has an extensive criminal history and was previously charged in 2020 in connection with a fire at the Thompson Center. So I ask again, why do they keep letting these people back on the street? This dude has already shown that he's not willing to change. He's already shown that. You need to keep his butt. This incident should keep him in prison for the rest of his life, at least. According to an earlier Fox 32 report, Reed faced a felony count of aggravated arson for allegedly setting the fire while people were inside the building, just minutes before Governor J.B. Pritzker's daily COVID-19 briefing. Authorities said Reed poured an unknown substance on the building's glass exterior and set it ablaze. No injuries were reported. Yeah, but you got injuries this time. Below are several mugshots of Reed released by the Chicago Police Department from 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2024. Wow. They just keep letting these people out. Reed's court hearing began at 10 a.m. on Friday. He faces a maximum sentence of life in prison if convicted, prosecutors said. I say lock him up and throw away the key. Or this might not sound decent, but make him disappear. I'm just saying. Someone needs to handle this dude. They shouldn't give him parole. They shouldn't give him probation. He needs to stay locked up because he has already 72 arrests, people. 72 arrests in the past 30 years. Folks, I'm 57 years old. I ain't never been arrested. Never. This dude does not need to be out in society. But once again, Brandon Johnson's Chicago. Oh, I'm concerned about people's safety. These are isolated incidents. We're doing all we can. And every time I hear someone say that, I want to tell them to shut up. You all aren't doing jack squat diddly because everything just keeps getting worse. Everything keeps getting worse and worse. You don't deal with you deal with these criminals with kid gloves. You don't respect the victims of the crimes. They have to pay the price. But you're just sitting there high and mighty in your mayor's mansion or governor's mansion or wherever you reside now. Eating caviar and bonbons and looking down on all the people who are under you. This is crazy mess, people. This is crazy. 72 times this man was arrested. And all of you all out there always talking about, oh, well, when a black man gets a black man doesn't get away with the same things the white man does. Excuse me, 72 times in 30 years? I already talked about the guy that stabbed the girl in Charlotte. He was arrested 14 times. Black guy. But y'all want, oh, well, black people, the reason why we end up in prison is because we don't get off like the white people do. Shut up. Just shut up. Don't shut up talking to me. And we got clear examples here. Clear examples. Several black dudes this year committing crimes when they had been arrested multiple times and they kept getting off because you got these activist judges up there. And I'm going to tell you one thing: if someone victimizes you and you go to court and you have a black woman judge, a liberal black woman judge, you're not going to get justice. I'm sorry, you're not going to get justice. I remember my mom was telling me something about 30 years ago. She was on jury duty in Washington, D.C. She was calling into jury duty. And the guy that was being tried, it was clear he was guilty. My mom told me, she said, it was clear this dude was guilty. Everybody on that judge pool, in that jury pool, or all of the jurors, let me say that, all of the jurors, but one, convicted this man as being guilty. But the one holdout The reason why she said she held out, and this was a woman, my mom told me, she said that she didn't want to see another black man go to jail. This was around 30 years ago. My mom told me this. I said, "Are you serious?" She said, "Yeah." She said she didn't convict him because she didn't want to see another black man end up in jail. Yeah, but he'll show you his gratitude if he doesn't go to jail. He'll get out and reoffend again. Oh, such gratitude. They're not going to change their lives. A lot of them, they're not going to change their lives. They say, "Oh, I got off. Maybe I can get off again. I'll continue committing a crime." 72 times, people. 72 times this man was arrested. And now he done set a woman on fire. She's in critical condition. She might not live. There's a possibility she might not survive it. And if she doesn't survive, they should take him into the room and pump his veins full of the fluid. He shouldn't see the light of another day. I remember some years ago, I was at this job and, I was debating with some folks in the break room. And, I was saying that these people who commit these crimes, if you're a person and you see someone committing a crime, you need to report it. And these people were like, "Nah, you shouldn't be reporting it. It's none of our business." I said, "It's none of our business." But if you don't report it, that person can come back and make you the victim. And this guy come talking about, "Oh, this ain't about no Spider-Man." No, this ain't got nothing to do with no Spider-Man. I ain't talking about no Spider-Man. But these people re-offend. If you don't report these crimes, they will re-offend. And they might come back to you. They're not going to come to you and say, "Oh, you know what? I'm glad you didn't say anything. So, instead of robbing your house, I'm just going to rob somebody else. But you my boy because, you didn't say anything." Nah, they don't care about you. These criminals don't care about you. Folks, we need to hit hard on crime. We shouldn't be playing with kid gloves and talking about these criminals' rights and everything. Look, you have forfeited your rights because you committed a crime. You forfeited your rights. That's probably why a lot of these people, when they get caught up in their dirt, they talk, "I know my rights. I know my rights." You don't know nothing. You don't know anything. But we're so concerned about their rights, about these criminals' rights, than we are about the victim's rights. And don't let the perpetrator be a black person. Oh man, we got to fight for his rights. We got to fight for his rights. Yeah. But you're doing a disservice. You should be defending your citizens. And I don't care the skin color of these thugs, be they black, be they white, be they red, be they brown, be they yellow, be they olive. You commit a crime, you got to pay the price, dude. You got to pay the price. And I don't want to hear anything about slavery and civil rights and all that crazy mess. That ain't the reason why you committed a crime. You committed a crime because you thought you could take the opportunity to invade on somebody else's rights. and turn somebody else into a victim. But now that you're in prison, you want to talk about your rights. And people want to fight. Yeah, we got to fight for their rights. Nah, You forfeited your rights when you commit the crime. That's what everybody should be saying about this man. He set this woman on fire. Someone come and say, well, are you going to fight for his rights? Rights? What rights? He forfeited his rights by setting that woman on fire. Someone who did absolutely nothing to him. Did absolutely nothing to him. But we want to talk about the criminal's rights. And I'm just scrolling through his mug shots, these shots of him on camera. He bought some gasoline at a convenience store. I can't tell if the woman he set on fire is black or white. I really can't tell. Said she tried to escape, but he had already set her on fire. And you got knuckleheads like this walking the streets, and you got enough nerve to sit there and say that we don't have a right to arm ourselves. You want to sit there and tell us you shouldn't own a gun. We need stronger gun laws. Well, let me tell you what we need stronger. What really needs to be stronger? Criminal laws. Now you want to sit here and talk about the police are out there to protect us. The police can only respond after the fact. I should be able to defend myself at all times. These criminals don't care about gun-free zones. They don't care about that. They're going to bring theirs. You know why? Because they're criminals. They're going to bring theirs. And we're going to sit here, and see, here's the thing that gets me to, the way people respond when certain criminals are arrested and whatever, at one level, let's say this person was just, had just committed shoplifting or something like that. And, people want to be concerned. Why y'all doing that to them? Why you holding them like that? Why you jerking them like that? Why you talking to them like that? Then the person ends up getting tased. Oh my gosh, they're tasing him. Or then the police have to do what they have to do. And they put a bullet into his body and he ends up dying. Y'all didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that. Put them in handcuffs. Y'all ain't got to put the handcuffs on there so tight and that's wrong. Y'all just doing that because they're black. Shut up. No, we're doing it because he's stupid. And when it comes to the handcuffs and everything, I see it all the time. They put them in handcuffs. They sit there. They're fighting with the police, and the police say stop resisting. They say I'm not resisting. Yes, you are. We're sitting there looking at it. You're resisting. And then they put them in the cuffs, and they're like, these cuffs are too tight. Well, let me tell you something. Handcuffs are not made for your comfort. And I guarantee you, those cuffs are not hurting them as much as they say they are. They'll get up there and say, "Oh, I got torn tendons and I'm pregnant and all." I see it all the time. I see it all the time. I know my rights. You're just doing this because I'm black. And none of us call them out on it. Those of us who support Black Lives Matter and all that, we don't call them out on this. When we see one of our black, quote unquote, black brothers and sisters acting a fool, we don't call them out on it. We don't say, hey, you know, I want to support you, but you're making us look bad. You're making us look bad. Those of us who want to be decent citizens, who want to follow the law, who want to respect others, you're making us look bad because there's too many of you all out there acting a fool. And then when someone looks at us kind of side eyed, we want to blame racism. No, it's because too many people who look like us take it upon themselves to commit a crime. And because so many of us are doing it and we see so many of us going to prison, we think it's racism, systemic racism. No, it's not systemic racism. It's systemic stupidity on the part of the criminals. I've never been to jail. I've never been to jail, never been arrested. I've had a couple of run ins with the police, not because I was a criminal or anything. I had a couple of run ins with them. And one thing I understand is that all police officers are not perfect. That's one thing people don't seem to want to get is that police officers are not perfect. Yeah, you got some boneheads out there. Yeah, you do. I've seen them myself personally. But you all want to get out here and you want to act a fool, and then when you have to pay for your consequences, you want to start throwing out, oh, it's because I'm black. You want to throw out the race card. And then you got your supporters out there. Oh, we've been in slavery for 400 years. This country ain't even 400 years old. Next year, the United States will be 250 years old. But y'all want to y'all. I don't know why they keep throwing that 400 years. We were in slavery for 400 years. No, we had. No, we weren't. First of all, slavery only lasted like 200 something years. 245, 247 years, I think, if I'm correct. And people keep throwing this thing out, the slavery we endured for 400 years. I think y'all may have gone into the into the book of Exodus and may have ripped one of the scriptures out because back in the book of Exodus, the children of Israel, they were in slavery for 400 years. And I guess y'all want to go in there and say, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we've been in slavery for 400 years. This country ain't even 400 years old. It's been 400 years since this country was discovered, since it was settled. But the United States, the United States didn't become a nation until 1776. People want to talk about 1620. The United States came into play 150 something years later, 156 years later. So when they say we were in slavery for 400 years, that's one of the big. And I wish people would stop pushing. And I see conservatives doing that mess too. They be pushing that mess. Oh yeah, slavery in the United States lasted for 400 years. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. And so we use all this to make excuses for the shortcomings in our black communities. We want to say that this is the reason why we can't get by because the white man took us from our country and they brought us over here on slave ships and they forced us to work the land and we built this country. We didn't build this country. We didn't build this country. Yeah. Well, I can't say we because I was never a slave. I was never a slave, so don't. I can't say we. Maybe yeah, our ancestors they were slaves. Yeah, and folks, don't get me wrong. Slavery was horrible. Whenever you kidnap somebody to work in your service for low pay, and you don't look out for their well being, yeah, that is horrible. You make one little mistake, they tying you to a tree and lashing you with that whip. That is horrible. They take your women and have their way with them. I'm not saying that slavery wasn't horrible, and it really burns my potatoes when people come up and talk about, well, you don't like being black and you just don't like history. Folks, I know history. I'm not a historian, but I understand history. It wasn't just white people saw black people said, "Ooh, let's make slaves out of them." And we taught like black people are the only ones that ever went through slavery. And see what that does in the present time, it arms a lot of these black civil rights activists with the excuses of why black people can't make it in this country. And we can make it a just, and even though you can point out black people who are successful, they have their own, they have their own businesses, they have their own homes. They're able to purchase their own health care and everything. When you point that out, you say, well, they just played up to the white man. They had to work 10 times as hard. Based on what? Based on what? You can't say that this day and age because a lot of kids that make it to college, the standards were lowered for them to make it in. Some of these kids that make it to college, some of these black kids, they didn't even qualify to make it to college. But they lowered the standards, and that's how they were able to make it in. We talk about affirmative action as if we get rid of affirmative action, people are just going to go back to poverty and everything. Folks, let me tell you all something. I don't know if you know this, but Jim Crow is dead and it will never be resurrected ever again. Jim Crow is gone. Here lies Jim Crow. And we want to take the trauma of a past incident, something that we never went through. People keep talking about we're going through the trauma of slavery. How are you going through the trauma of slavery and you never experienced it? So tell me about this trauma. Why? How are you traumatized by something you didn't experience? Folks, I can go anywhere I want to go. In general, I can go anywhere where I want to go. I've never been turned down for a hotel or a restaurant because I'm black. Not one time. I've never been pulled over by the police because I'm black. Someone got on me once talking about I need to stop wearing my hoodies because the police might think you're a thug. I went into a convenience store one time. There were two big white police officers in there, and I had on a hoodie. I went in there and got my stuff, shook the police officers' hands, thanked them for their service, went up there, paid for my stuff, and left. But the police officers then say, "Hey, wait a minute, you got a hoodie on. You must be you look a little suspicious. You must be a criminal. Come on, spread your legs, put your hands on the wall. We're going to take you down to the station." Never had it happen. But to hear a lot of people say it, they say this is going to be an experience if you're a black person in this country. Because one black person's experience is all of our experiences. That's how they talk to you. And I tell people, don't speak for me. Don't get up here acting like you speak for me, because you don't speak for me. I can think for myself. I can make my own decisions. Ain't no white man keeping me from doing anything. Let me pull up this other article. I think this will be the last one I talk about tonight. I got about 10 minutes. I don't know if you all remember the case of Takia Young in Ohio a few years ago. Well, about a couple of years ago. Let me read this article. This comes from ABC News, and it's dated November 21st, which is yesterday, 2025. Ohio officer found not guilty in murder of Takia Young's shooting death. The pregnant 21-year-old's unborn child also died after the shooting. Yeah, that is tragic. That's tragic. Don't get me wrong on that. A jury found an Ohio police officer not guilty of murder on Friday in the 2023 shooting death of a 21-year-old pregnant black woman who was suspected of shoplifting. Connor Grubb of the Blendon Township Police Department was cleared of murder, involuntary manslaughter, and felonious assault in Takia Young's death. Excuse me. Body camera showed Body camera footage showed Grubb shooting Young on August the 24th, 2023, while she drove her vehicle in Grubb's direction after she allegedly stole liquor from a Kroger grocery store. And the police officers they had accosted her, and she wanted to cut up. She wanted to cut the fool because she had stole some alcohol. And of course, they're going to show you the picture of her smiling. She got these, good gracious, them huge eyelashes. What is it about women in these eyelashes? It doesn't look good. Young was 7 months pregnant at the time of the incident in the store parking lot in Blendon Township, Ohio, her grandmother told ABC News in a 2023 interview. Her unborn child also died. Nadine Young, Takia Young's grandmother, was visibly distraught and could be heard crying and yelling in the courtroom after the verdict. It's not right, Nadine Young said before she was escorted out of the courtroom. He's walking away free. It's not right. What if she said that about any of these black people who get off easy? You know, they get arrested 72 times, but they still get off easy. But I digress. Sean Walton Jr., Takia Young's family attorney, said in a press conference after the verdict that even though he was disappointed, he did not blame the jury. The jury didn't do anything wrong here, Walton said. Conan Grubb is the one who pulled the trigger. Conan Grubb is the one who has us all here right now. After the verdict, Grubb hugged his attorneys and walked out of the courtroom with his family after getting the judge's permission. On behalf of Connor, his family, they they thank all the jurors for their service, Mark Collins, Grubb's attorney, said at the press conference after the verdict. He took a life on duty and realized another life after that. To walk around with that, and that is a difficult situation. Grubb did not attend the press conference. Takia Young's family released a statement obtained by ABC News on Friday saying that they will pursue a civil lawsuit but did not specify when or who the suit will be against. Our civil case will prove what the jury, they're not going to prove anything. They're not going to prove anything. They just want to get by. They say, well, we couldn't get it this way. We're going to try it this way. It's not going to prove anything. Our civil case will prove what the jury could not find beyond a reasonable doubt, the family said in their statement. We will show that Grubb created the danger by positioning himself in front of her vehicle with his weapon drawn. He probably was in front of a vehicle, make sure she didn't leave. I don't think he got in front of a vehicle and said, man, I hope this black girl tries to run me over. I hope she runs me over. This black girl, come on, black girl, come on, run me. Oh, she did it. Okay, bam, 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 bam. He was probably standing in front of the car to keep her from driving off because she was giving them a hard time at that time. I don't think it was smart of him to stand in front of the car. Don't get me wrong, But he was probably doing that to make sure she didn't leave. After Friday's verdict, Collins sent a statement to ABC News saying that laws need to be changed to allow a grand jury to hear evidence about reasons why force is used in cases like these, because force was used against them. If the grand jury that handed up this indictment had heard from Connor's defense team the law and evidence that show his actions were justified, he likely would never have been indicted, Collins said in the statement. So basically, you got these you got this girl. She's shoplifting, and they catch her outside the store. Say, "Why, you've been accused of stealing some wine and whatever." She cuts the food. She gets in her car, and one of the officers stands in front of the car, keep her from leaving. That's what I believe he was trying to do. And when she tried to move, she moved in the direction of that officer, and that officer had to make a split second decision. And he shot her and killed her. But people say justice wasn't served this time. Justice was served. And that police officer should not be in prison. So when you all get up here and start talking about justice, really figure out what that word means. And justice is a door that swings both ways. If you're looking for justice for yourself, you need to look out for justice for everybody, even if they don't share the same skin color that you do. All justice really means is passing a fair law, being fair in the passing of your laws, which means you hold criminals accountable and you offer protection to the victims. That is true justice. Not this mess that, Black Lives Matter and the NAACP and all the rest of these black support groups go out here talking about. That's not justice. And we only think about justice in terms of how we can get by on the white man. We don't cry justice when one of our own kills one of us. We don't cry justice then. We only cry justice when it happens to be a white person dealing out victimhood to a black person. That's the only time we think about it. Well, folks, that will end today's show. And before I go, I wanted to let people know that hopefully next week, I might do a show on Friday since I'll be off on Friday. I might do a show on Friday and Saturday, but we'll see. I'll leave that with you all on my Facebook page and whatever. But whenever I get up here and I start saying what I say, first of all, let me get this to you. I am not a perfect person. I may say some things that are out of the way. I may misspeak or something like that. But all I ask is that you don't just attack me because I'm not supporting your point of view. Go out and research what I'm talking about. Look into it and then come to your conclusions then. But don't just react with your feelings because it's hurting your feelings. We all should be lookers for the truth. We should all be on a quest to find the truth. And if you're not going to be a person who looks for the truth or quests to find the truth, then your argument is not valid. So whenever you hear me talking like this and everything, don't just take my word for it. Use critical thinking skills, question everything, look into it. See if what I'm saying is true or not. But don't react with your feelings or what you heard on your favorite news station or something like that. Do your due diligence to confirm the truth and to create a valid point of view. I am Vincent E. Brown. I'm signing off. And until the next time, I'll see you on the rebound.
You are listening to WVEB Truthsharks Radio.